English with Glory. Today we're going to talk about how to pronounce some words with letter S. That is, words with letter S making the sound of letter Z. How you should pronounce the words. Yes, it's not every word with letter S that you are to pronounce saying S. There are some words having the letter S, but you are to pronounce the words with the sound of letter Z. And the sound of letter Z is Z. Let's look at some of the words and the rules for words with letter S making the sound of letter Z. First rule to know when you want to pronounce words with letter S changing to the sound of letter Z is that when you have a word in its plural form, okay, when a word changes to its plural form and the last sound before the plural is a voiced consonant, you are to pronounce the S as Z. Let me say that again. When you have your plural and you add it, when you want to add your plural, you add in letter S, right, to the plural. So when you add your letter S to the plural, you are to pronounce the S saying Z. If the sound before the plural is a voiced consonant. For example, we have the word dogs, dogs. You don't go saying dogs. You say dogs. You ought to say dogs because the sound before the S is a voiced consonant. We have other examples like beds, rooms. When you also have the word before the plural being a vowel, you can also pronounce the plural as z. For example, we have eyes, play, plays, days. So you don't go saying days. You don't go saying ice for EYES. Rather, you say eyes. You say days. You say z because you have a vowel before the S, which is the plural, and you have a voiced consonant before the plural. Okay, so you have a voiced consonant before the plural, so you have to go saying z. Let's try to compare these words with the sound s and the sound z. Okay, so that you can know the differences between the sounds. We have ice, eyes, s, z. We have rice, rise, face, face, sis, sees. We have race, raise, this, dice, dies, niece, niece. So for those words, you don't have to go pronouncing them as z or s. For example, sis, you ought to say sis, not sis. While sis is Seize. You ought to say dice, okay, not dice, right? So you take note of those words, same as phase, 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 not face, okay? So you say phase, while Face is face. So that is for rule one. For rule two, when you have letter S, when S appears in the middle of a word, it sometimes takes the sound Z. That is, when you have S appearing in the middle of two vowels, you have the S making the sound Z. For example, we have visit, visit. You say visit, not visit. Visa, visa. You ought to say visa. Okay, the S is making the sound Z. We have other words like reside, reside, resist, resist, easy, busy, result, poison, prison, president. In these words, you are to pronounce the letter S, making the sound Z. We have many other words with the S between two vowels. So because you have the S between two vowels, you are to pronounce the S saying Z. Note that we have exceptions. There are exceptions, so you still need to take your time to listen to the word. Okay, listen to the word to be sure of its pronunciation before you just conclude that you are to pronounce the word saying Z. For example, we have the word basic. The S is between two vowels, but you don't say basic. You have basin. You have the S between two vowels, but you don't say basin. So it's very important you try to listen to be sure of the pronunciation of the words. Rule 2 again. When you have letter S between two vowels, the S is to be pronounced as Z. Z. Let's move on to the next rule. The third rule, when you have some nouns ending with F or FE in its singular form, when it's changing to plural, it is written as VES. You also pronounce the ES in those words, saying Z. For example, we have knife, knives. You don't say knives, rather, you say knives. Loaf, loaves, loaves, not loaves. We have thief, thief, thieves, shelf, shelves. In these words, the S is making the Z sound. You are not to pronounce it, saying Z. The third rule, again, when you have words with the plural, when you have words with the plural changing to VES, that is, words ending F or FE in its singular form, and the plural is changing to VES, you are to pronounce the plural as Z. The next rule we have words with the combination of SM at the end makes the Z sound. We have examples like sarcasm, sarcasm, baptism, chasm, baptism, chasm. So you don't say baptism, baptism. You don't say sarcasm, sarcasm. You don't say sarcasm, sim. Okay, you don't pronounce the sim sound instead of the zim sound. Okay, so when you have words with sm at the end, you are to pronounce the s, making the z sound. So you say baptism, not baptism. You say sarcasm, not sarcasm. When letter X is followed by a vowel or a semi-vowel letter, the X makes the Z sound. For example, we have Zender, Zender. You are to say Zender, not sender. Yes, I do hear some people pronouncing the word as sender. You don't say sender, you say zender. We also have xylophone. Xylophone, because the X is followed by a semivowel letter, the X is pronounced as xylophone, not xylophone. When EX appears immediately before a stressed syllable, that is with a vowel, the X is pronounced as Z. For example, we have the word example. Example. You don't say example, you say example. Examine, examine. Exhort, exhibit, exhibit. We also have exact, exact. We have exist, exist, exotic, exotic. So you don't say exist, you don't say examine, you say examine. Okay, you say z because you have the ex before a stressed vowel. So the ex is changing to the sound z. We also have that other words like Alexander, Alexander. You say Alex, right? Alex. But when it comes to Alexander, you don't say Alexander. Okay, you go Alexander, Alexander. Another rule for S making the sound Z. When you have the suffix ise, when it is used to form verbs, it makes the sound Z. For example, have words like surprise, advise, advise, supervise, supervise, despise. So you don't say surprise, you don't say advice or advice. Okay, you say advise, you say supervise, not supervise. The SE in those words are making the sound Z. If a word ends in SE preceded by a vowel, the SE in that word is to be pronounced as Z. For example, we have words like press, nose, rose, browse, bruise. In these words, you are to pronounce the letter S, making the sound Z. You don't say nose, you don't say press, you say press. So here are some of the rules of letter S making the sound Z. I hope you found this useful and you are going to take notes of how to use the letter S sound. And I believe now you've come to realize that letter S can make the sound Z in many words. Do you have a question? You can leave that in the comments. And if you want us to talk about any topic, you can let us know. I want you to subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do that. Share this video, like this video for more people to get to know about this channel. Thank you for watching. See you some other time.